Guys, I am about to add Sophia onto here. She is absolutely incredible. I'm so excited. She is a IFBB pro and also a lawyer. So this girl is high level. I don't know how to say this. EA Belia. Hello, Waldeshine. Waldeshine. Okay. Okay.
Hi.
Sophia. So good. Good to see you. Thank you for coming on. I'm so excited to ask you all these questions just to kind of inspire others to be able to start either on their fitness journey or be able to kind of take it to the next level. And then also just to really be able to get to know you as a person and everything that you've been able to accomplish so far. So
Thank you for
thank
having
you
me.
for coming on. Yeah, and then thank you guys for everyone who's joining on. Chillamam, Ryan, good to see you. Thank you guys. So Sophia is an IFBB Bikini pro, and she's also a lawyer, so basically all around a badass. That's essentially it. This girl basically accomplishes anything that she sets her mind to, which is truly, truly amazing. And I just kind of want to have everyone else know your story and a little bit of your background. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of sharing what your
Sure.
journey has
So
been so
I
far.
so I'm an I earned my IFBB Pro status back in September at North Americans. But before that, so I've kind of been like a lifelong athlete. I started running track when I was 9 years old. I did AAU, and I also my middle school had a track team, so I did both. I got into pageants around that time too, so I was both running track, doing pageants, and also cheering on the cheer team. And when I got to high school, the only thing that I kept up was pageants and track. And at that point, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, so I kind of set my sights on that and knew I was going to go to college and pick whatever major I wanted to. But the ultimate goal was to go to law school. So I went to college. I ran track in college also. And the thing that I kept the most from college track was really my mindset. We got a new track coach, I want to say my junior year of college. And one of the things that he focused on a lot was mindset and mental toughness. So we actually did incorporate that in our practice too. We would have like classroom sessions, and that's what we were focused on. So a lot of the things that I learned from that really helped me become a better athlete in track. I was able to hit some PRs. I had some school records even at that time too. I went to law school, and I used those same methods to kind of help me, stay at the top of my class and graduate. And then also use that for the bar exam. And I've been able to use those same principles in all my preps, really, because as you know, as a competitor, like preps do get pretty tough. And they do. I think the thing that separates a lot of people in prepping is really just mental toughness. It's not really like how high or how low your food are, or how much cardio you're doing. It's really like, are you able to like push through when it gets hard and you feel like you can't?
I think that's so true. And really that's on so many different levels because something we kind of build ourselves up into being able to become either, a bikini athlete or whatever kind of athlete you're trying to become, or even if you're just like starting to do a routine, like all of that takes a little bit of a build mentally to be able to get into that routine or starting something new. Like not we don't all start, just like kind of come out and are like, okay, I'm 100% into this and I can just do whatever.
Yeah.
It takes like a building phase. And you touched on so many different areas and there's so much to unpack into that. But I think what you said, which is really great, is the mental toughness. And I think we all have a concept of like, what does that actually mean? Building that strength. But is there something that you were taught how to develop that? Like, how is it that you can build your mental toughness? Like,
So
what
for
does
me,
that
the
mean? What
way
does
to
that
build
look
it was
like?
is really just like positive affirmations. That's one aspect. So one of the things that I say to myself a lot is I can, I will, I'm able, I deserve. And I repeat that even if I'm in a place where I might not actually believe it or be able to see it. I just keep repeating it. And also just like learning how to develop a routine and habits and consistency, because whenever your motivation is down or you're feeling like you really can't, it's the ability to like stick to that routine that's really going to push you, because your mind might tell you that you can't, but if you have that routine and you're able to like wake up every day and just get in that routine, and it's kind of like brushing your teeth, like you just have to do it, that helps a lot too.
So do you have a particular routine that you do
Yes, and
in
it
season and off
says the
season
exact
when
same.
you
So I get up, first thing in the morning. I get up, brush my teeth, get ready. I go to the gym, and then I get home and have my breakfast. I relax for a little bit, have my coffee, and then I start working for the day. And so that's pretty much my daily routine in and out of season.
okay. And do you work out once a day or twice a day when
It's
you're
a
in
lot
season?
easier for me to do. If I really have to, if I
Okay, do
really
it too.
have to,
Let's
like
see.
in a prep, I'll do like 2 a days.
Okay. So how do you fit that in then like into your new routine? How is it that like you change your mindset to be able to
So
do that?
one of the other things I like to focus on too is flexibility. So it's important to have a routine, but it's important that your routine is not rigid, that you're flexible. So ultimately, like my goal is to just get it done. And so when I do have to work out twice a day, I use the lunch period to do that. I
Okay.
do,
And you
and
work
honestly,
from
like that,
home.
it makes it a lot easier. I mean, when I started competing, it was pre-COVID, so I was going into the office on a daily basis. And so the difference there was that I was packing my clothes to go to work with me, and I would take a shower at the gym, which isn't the funnest thing to do because showering in your own home and space is a lot better. But it just goes back to like the ultimate goal is just getting it done. So that's what I had to do to fit that into my schedule, and so that's what I did.
So I like what you said there because I've had this come up a lot in a lot of different ways. And they say like, well, what do you do? And I think that I tell me if this is totally not right for you, but for me, when I have a goal, I ask myself, how am I going to be able to do this? And then the answers start kind of laying
Yeah.
themselves out. So I do the same thing. If it means that, okay, the best way for my to be most efficient to be able to get in all that time at the gym or cardio is for me to bring my stuff to the gym and then for me to shower there, then that's what I have to do. And then now I kind of like with me, I do traveling and I do contracts and stuff like that. So a lot of times there's a gym at the hotel, but mentally it's hard for me to kind of put myself in the position to be like I'm at the gym because it feels very much like home. So for me to be most successful, that usually means that I need to bring my stuff to work and then I need to go to the gym right afterwards to a separate gym. So that way I can actually be in that space and be able to do it. And that's kind of how I solve my how and like the sequencing of how I do things.
It's
Is
pretty
that
much the
right for
same
you or
exact
no?
thing, and one of my like favorite quotes is like, you have to begin with the end in mind. So when I do travel, I travel for work sometimes too, and so when I do that, I like to think about, well, I like to look up, where I'm going to be staying at, like what gyms are in close proximity, what I need to bring with me in order to make it happen. But I just try to plan all of it out before I get there, because I think if you're like you should be flexible and not rigid, but you should still have a plan, because if you don't have a plan, like it's really easy to just for other things to come up and for you not to get it done.
Yeah. If something does come up and you're not able to get it done, whatever it is, that if that means like getting your macros in or going to the gym or whatever, like how is it that you coach yourself through that process of being able to set
Yeah,
yourself up for success the
so
next
what I
time?
do is, I mean, I like to, like, we're all human and we have emotions, so I do like to let myself like feel like that frustration. Okay, I'm frustrated. This isn't optimal. This isn't what I ideal. It's not what I want to do. But go through that feelings, and once I get through the end of that, then I figure out the plan on how to do it. And so sometimes what that means, like even though I prefer to work out in the morning, it does mean that I'm getting my training done at night. Um, and then and then the next day I'll start back in the morning again. But for that day, if nighttime is the best time that I can do and the only time, then that's what I'm gonna do. It's not ideal. I don't like it,
Mhm.
but I just remember that the ultimate result that I want is to just get it done.
Right. Yeah. I think the same thing. It's like kind of like, okay, what is it? And part of it too for me, what is it that I want to achieve and the end goal? And
Yeah.
then also like what
And then
commitment
sometimes
did I
too,
make to
also
myself?
like sometimes I just won't do it because then I tell myself, all right, well maybe you did need a break, and so let's just switch around your rest days around a little bit. And so I use that flexibility too, because I don't want to like just kill myself just to get it done for it, because it's just one day, and missing one workout, it's not the end of the world. Or not being able to do something you want to do, it's not gonna there are a lot of more important things going on in the world, so it's not gonna end your world. But sometimes I do like to reframe that too. Like, okay, maybe, you really just needed a break. Your body needed a rest, and that's okay. And let's just start back again tomorrow.
Yeah. I like
Yeah.
that. Just like being kind to yourself and then being able to like set yourself up again for sure. Um, so you've had, I think there's a couple different things that's super interesting about what we talked about a little bit. You've had a coach. You've done a lot of different things. You've done different
Yeah.
forms of bodybuilding too. And you've done track. You're a high level track athlete. And you've also, you've been able to accomplish being an IFBB pro, and then you're a lawyer as well. So do you use like coaches and mentors throughout all of
Yeah.
these goals that you have accomplished? And how is it like that you choose these people to be able to guide you through
So
whatever
the
goal you're
answer is
trying to
yes. Like,
achieve?
I mean, I've had mentors in law school. I have mentors now, that kind of help me. And I like to think that they kind of find me. Like, it's almost just like being at the right place at the right time, and just keeping yourself open to learn. Like, my dad always tells me that the minute you stop, you feel like you know so much that you can't learn, like now you're dumb, for lack of a better word, because you should always be open to learning. So I think I'm able to find mentors at every stage of my life for everything that I want to do, because I'm always inquisitive and just always open to learn from people that have done things that I want to do.
Yeah, I think that's really great. And you worked with,
Yes.
so your coach is Casey, and Casey is with Boss Bodies. She started Boss Bodies. She is an incredible woman herself. Like, honestly, I learn something new about her every single time I meet her or talk to
Yeah.
her. She's truly amazing. How is it that you
I
chose her
I
as
mean, I
your
think
coach
her,
for
because
fitness?
she's amazing for one, to start with, and she's relatively like very easy to talk to. She gets it. She tries, like, she listens to the athletes, and she's just, I mean, she's incredible. Like, I mean, she was such a great help to me just this year alone, and just whenever I wasn't like feeling like I could continue, like, she would be there just talking me through it. And even like just the way she's able to quickly react whenever there's a situation, like if I'm feeling super stressed, and she's like, okay, let's do this instead. So I mean, she cares about people, and you can really see like her passion for the sport, and she's a wealth of knowledge also, and just like what the bikini division is and competing in general.
Yeah. Yeah, she's a wealth of knowledge, and I also
Yeah.
think that she's just an amazing role model. She really goes like you said, very passionate about the sport, goes all in, and like she's also
She
very
is. She
skilled in a
is
lot
like
of
the
different
just
ways.
putting the fine
So
details
incredible.
together. Like, cause we always
Yeah.
joke, cause I'm like, wow, you're so great at picking black girl hair. Like, how is that possible? She's very skilled.
Wait, how is she? What do you mean
Just
by
like,
that?
like picking out the stage look, like the makeup. She's very good at it.
Oh, just like polished and
She
stuff.
does,
Did she
yeah,
actually like pick
yeah, she
your
does
hair
actually.
out, or what did she do?
She
Wow,
does. She
that
picked the color
is
palette for my
amazing.
face, and that's like my look now, and like the suit coloring. Like, she does all that.
Wow, yeah. Yeah, which like with
Yeah.
your skin tone, like you want things to stand out, and then you also, that is kind of a hard balance, like because the colors, sometimes you can't get
Yeah.
colors to stand out, I would imagine, and then sometimes it looks like a little too
Yeah,
much
because
where
there's
you're
like
like, oh,
there's
that looks
stage, and then there's
crazy.
everyday life. Like, I know I remember one time, for example, like I wanted, like, what lip was it? It just didn't look good. Like, it was like a pink lip. Like, I like in regular life, like I like wearing pink lips. but on stage it looked terrible.
Hmm. Oh my
So
God.
those things matter, and she's able to, like, before you even get on stage, she's able to see like what colors on your face are gonna look good.
Right. Yeah. And she does really like doing like the in-person, especially for
Oh
the national shows,
yeah,
like in-person kind of evaluation, because she knows it makes
yeah.
a huge difference for sure. But there was a point, and like I'm just saying all this stuff because I listened to your interview with Celeste, which I thought was absolutely amazing, and you guys touched on a lot of different topics. And you had at one point done OCB, and then
NGA.
also what was the other
The,
one that you
yeah.
did? The NGA, which is unique because not a lot of people do that. Like they do that, but it doesn't happen very often. Most people will like stick to either the purely natural division, or they'll stick to like NPC, IFBB. So what was that experience like overall? And how did you go back to Casey? Like, what was it like that you kind of thought through that you're like,
So,
what, I
well,
just want to go back to
we're
Casey?
first the OCB and the NGA. They were different experiences, and I've been seeing a lot of talk about like people possibly switching and going there just because of like the standards. But I personally would just never go back to the OCB or the NGA. Um, I did it initially just because, like, kind of how you and I, talk. Like when I looked at the competitors before, I could not see myself there. So I thought like I thought that the only place that I could fit in was in the OCB or the NGA. So that's why I started out there. But to me, the way they were ran, and it just wasn't competitive. It wasn't serious. And people talk about how like the NPC and IFBB have like politics, but they've never seen an OCB show. Like literally, like if you're friends with, if you're friends with the promoter's going to tell the judge to pick you. And that's how, like, yeah. And because the way they were
Well,
picking winners, like it was ridiculous. I've never seen anything like that. So I personally would not do that again. And then to just circle back. So the way I got back to Casey is, my best friend Stassi, and also Keisha, they were coached by Casey. I first met Keisha. Keisha and I talked via DMs, and she was on Boss Bodies. And then I met Stassi through Keisha, and then we just kept talking, and I was telling them some of the issues that was happening with like my prior coach, and they were like, you should just give Casey a chance, just talk to her again, just talk to her. And I was like, she probably doesn't even remember me, and all these things.
yeah.
And I
Oh,
yeah.
she has an amazing memory. She remembers, yeah, for good or
Yes.
bad.
So
She
then like
will remember.
we did a consult, and it just like instantly hit it off. And so then I just joined, and it's been amazing ever since.
So what you said is exactly, because I thought about, like I've been competing in NPC/IFBB, they're kind of combined or whatever, but for years, like really a long time, and I've gotten really close, like one spot away from my pro card. Like I've gotten close, but just haven't gotten it. And I thought about like, well, I am a natural athlete. Like, why don't I just do one of the natural things? And the same thing came up where I was just like, okay, the issue is, even if I became pro in OCB or NGA or whatever those other ones are that are tested in natural, like I don't feel like I would be as satisfied, because the level of competition is higher in the NPC and IFBB. There's more competitors. There's more, like, it's a higher standard to even become a pro, where I feel like it would just be the most satisfying thing if I
Exactly.
was
And I
able
think
to
because it's
accomplish
just
that.
like a higher standard, it's more competitive. It creates more opportunity too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And then I liked what you said with Celeste, because I think people are like, well, how do I choose a coach? There's coaches, and you have said this, you use mentors and coaches for every single area of your life in so many different ways, and that's helped you be able to achieve things. And so if you have a fitness goal, like even if you don't always use a coach, I think using a coach initially can be really, really helpful. You avoid a lot of mistakes, and you get to your goal in a more direct way. But how to choose a coach, because sometimes they're not always the
Mm-hmm.
most knowledgeable, but they act like it. Sometimes they haven't used the best methods. Like they kind of go and they say, you got to use like this prescribed like fat burner, you got to use this like hormone or something to achieve what you want to achieve. And like, you know, no disrespect to anyone who does that route, but it's not right for everyone. So how is it that, like, I know you had the consultation, but what was it that stood out with Casey that you really wanted to like work with her
instantly
again?
like she immediately looked at my picture, she compared them, and she like instantly said, okay, this is what we can do differently. You know, this is what we're going to be able to do in this amount of time, and long term, this is what we can do. So she got straight to the chase, and she's been consistent with what she said. Like she didn't tell me, because I know like some people like they say, like one of the popular things, like, oh, you know, we can do this and the easiest way possible, like keep food high or whatever, and then people run to that. But she didn't like sell me any of those dreams. Like she just said, you know, we can grow, we need to grow here, and we can do it in, you know, in this amount of time. You just, as long as you're able to do the work, like we can get it done. And so that really sold me. And she didn't like, she wasn't, I could tell that she wasn't just trying to get me to pay her, if that makes sense. And the
Right.
other coaches that I did, because I had consults with other coaches too at the time, and the sense that I got from them was like one time, like one coach, it was really like monotone, and you could tell like it was like, it sounded like they were kind of like reading a script or something too, and I was just like, this feels off.
Yeah.
And the other one, like I could just tell like this was just a money grab, because the things that were being said they just weren't aligning.
Yeah. Works of art that well put, for sure. Like I totally agree that you have to, if you're going to sign on with a coach, like you're investing your time, your energy, your body, your mind, and also like your money. Like you're giving that money for a service. And so I think when it comes down to it, and this is what I got at least from your conversation with Celeste, was like you have to have a genuine connection with your coach.
Yeah.
Like you really want to make sure that, because emotions, like logic and all that kind of stuff, can't, you know, basically outthink emotions. Like you want to make sure that you are trusting into this person in multiple different ways, and that you have a good connection with them. It's also, I think, going to keep you more accountable. Like when you have an accountability partner, if it's just someone who's very monotone and who's not like actually asking you questions and not invested into you into a personal way, then you're not going to like feel like as motivated, I think.
And I think like, and just to expand on that too, like there could be a great coach and your personality might not align with them, and that's okay too. So there's just different aspects to it. I do think that especially if you're starting out, you should have a coach, but picking a coach is so complex because there are so many bad ones out there, but then there are also really good ones. And then it could be a good one that just doesn't align with you, and that's okay too. And just really filtering through. Like I think the things that's been annoying me in the fitness industry in general is just like, people trying to sound like they're experts and just using like a bunch of like sciencey words just to sound like they're doctors a little bit. And it's just like, that's one of the red flags for me, honestly. Sometimes it's just like, let's just leave a lot of things to the actual like people that went to school and studied and actually did this,
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with that. So what are you looking forward to now, like moving forward? Because you got your pro card and
I am in prep for my pro debut, so I'm very excited about that. I mean, it's also very nerve-wracking because you still get into the place of like, okay, am I gonna be like ready? Am I gonna look good? Am I even gonna look the same that I did when I went?
That like happens. Like, if there's ever a point that goes away, I go through that every single prep. Like even this last one, like 6 weeks out, and my friend was like, "You gotta just like decide, like you're gonna be ready." And I was like the whole time.
Sometimes it feels like it gets better before it gets worse. You just need to, you kind of just have to keep checking along until you get like that one like big drop, and all of a sudden it just all comes together. It's just like an instant snap, and then all of a sudden, all right, we're getting somewhere. So
yeah. Is there a way that you handle, like, because you touched on it, like we have doubts even going, I mean, Sophia, like you're amazing. You've competed in different bodybuilding federations, and you're an IFBB Bikini pro, like that's truly amazing. Plus you're a lawyer, but you even go through those like cycles of doubt. there's something that you do to kind of help yourself get through that cycle of doubt, whether it's with fitness or with life or
So
with work,
I want to say like
whatever.
for fitness specifically, like Casey helps a lot with that because she pretty much just tells me, she says, just leave all the thinking to me. Like she's like, just let me worry about everything. So like at some points I do that and I just like I stop thinking. I just snap my check-in pictures, send them to her. And I don't like examine myself too much or the pictures. I'm like, let me just let her deal with it. If she thinks something is off, she can fix it when she sends me my plan back. So that's how I handle that. But in terms of like just my career, kind of almost the same concept. Like I just like for example, like I had like a really tough week last week. My job is really can sometimes be really high intense, and it was just a really like long week, and it felt like just a bunch of fire drills and a bunch of high intense moments, lots of meetings, lots of calls, lots of emergencies. And so I did get to a place on Friday when I was just like, okay, I can't do this. I can't do it. So I took my moments and then like I just breathed it out. And then like I got back to it and it was fine.
Yeah, I like that. I do that sometimes too. You work as a lawyer, I work as a nurse practitioner,
Yep.
and some decisions are not easy. Sometimes they're not straightforward. Some patients, I know that you
Yeah.
know this, like some people are not easy. They're not straightforward. And so like that's something that I actually, even just like my day-to-day in clinics and stuff I've implemented is if I have a patient, because people get very emotional. And if they're getting emotional, and sometimes when they get emotional, they get angry. And if someone is getting like that, then I'm like, you know what, I'm going to step out for a second. And I give them a little bit of time. I hand them a water and I give them, 5 minutes or whatever. And then I go back in. I'm telling you, it has made a world of a difference. Like sometimes when you're in that moment, if you don't take a step back and you don't allow things to kind of settle, it just keeps going and escalating, and it just kind of can go off the rails. So it's better to just like take a couple minutes, take a breather for yourself, for the other person, and then go back
That's
into the
exactly it.
situation
Like that's the
afterwards.
best way to do it. And it sounds so simple, but it really works. Just a few moments and it really just recenters you.
Yeah, it does sound simple, and I think it took me a really long time to figure that out. And even still, like there's still moments where I have to remind myself, like, okay, I can, and it's almost like I start to feel like a certain tightness in my chest, or like, just like a little angst, or even just like feel the energy type of thing. And you're just like, okay, now's the time where I
Exactly.
just gotta step back. And it feels like almost like I'm initially doing it, it almost feels like a negative, but like you're like, oh, I can't handle it or something like that. I don't know, just in my head, but it actually is like
Yeah.
a
And then
step back to
the other
take a
thing
step
too that's
forward.
kind of been helpful, I just started this, is just like meditating a little bit before going to bed at night. It really just helps like take the stress from the day and the worry of that day and like just
Yeah,
forget it and start the next day fresh again.
I love that. Um, so you said like in the morning you usually work out and then you come back, have your coffee, and then go to work. Is there like the meditation? Is there a specific way that you handle your night routine to
Um,
set yourself
well,
up for
just
the
the
next day?
meditation now that I just started. I like to have my dinner and I like to watch like, an hour or so of mindless TV. And then I get ready for bed and I started doing the meditation. Another thing I started doing too that someone from work actually gave me this tidbit. I got this like to-do list from Amazon and I just I put the things that I wasn't able to complete for the day on that list so that I'm not waking up in the middle of the night thinking about it because I did struggle with that a couple of weeks ago. I just kept waking up in the middle of the night because I just kept thinking about all the things that I wasn't able to get to and that I still need to do and just worrying about like forget that I was going to forget stuff. But since writing them down and before I go to bed and also meditating, like that's been happening less and less and less.
So a couple of things that you said that actually really stuck out to me, and I've read different books on and like, seen different podcasts on. So one thing you mentioned earlier, which we didn't explicitly say, but when you're going through an emotion, if you label it, essentially, and it's like psychologists will say that, then it ends up decreasing the amount of attention that it has on yourself and like kind of separating yourself from it. So saying I feel as opposed to I am separates yourself from the emotion and allows you to kind of like say it out loud, and it lessens the degree of just like power, I guess, that it has on you. So saying that out loud, and that's something that you didn't really explicitly say, but you
but
do
that
that in
is
certain
interesting
ways.
though. I think I'm gonna try that, just to say it out loud, because I haven't done that. So that is interesting.
It's something that I put into practice, but I'm not always, I wouldn't say I'm 100% on it. I have to remind myself still to do it, but I separate myself to the feeling like I feel anxious, and then like just by saying it, it lessens the degree of it, and I just keep saying it and know that like I'm not an anxious person, I'm not the anxiety, I'm not the fear, I'm not the whatever. I feel this way in this moment, and it like puts it to the side, and then you can handle it. And then from there, like obviously you still have to deal with it or you still have to move on, but like at least it recognizes it, labels it, and then you're able to put it off to the side. Then the other thing that you said was that like basically the same thing is like a to-do list sometimes can be overwhelming, but if you keep all like the stuff in your head, then it can start to cycle through. So just being able to put it down on paper and actually writing it down and then saying, I'm going to get to it when I get to it, then it offloads your brain with all the tasks that you have, and it just separates it. It's kind of like the same thing. It puts it outside of your brain, separates it, puts it to the side, and then you handle it the way that you handle it.
And I like how you said it too, like I'm going to get to it when I get to it, because that's how I view it. It's like it's a loose to-do list, because it's really for an organizational thing than it is like a rigid thing that I have to get through, everything on this list today. Because that's not really the goal. The goal is just to make sure that we stay organized and we get to it when we get to it, and we acknowledge that we have to do it, but we don't have to get it all done today.
Right, exactly. This is kind of like steering into a different direction, but is there someone who you're really inspired by, or someone that inspires you on a daily basis?
So many people, honestly, so many people inspire me, but like, just to keep it simple, like honestly, like I would say my number one inspiration is probably still to this day my parents.
That's amazing. And what is it
just
that you're inspired by?
Their ability to like really just like persevere. Like my parents are, they immigrated over here from Haiti, and I have 7 total siblings. So yeah.
Whoa.
I'm one of 7. Yeah.
We're in the list.
No.
Are you the oldest, youngest?
I'm in the middle.
You're middle?
Yeah.
Wow, I never would have guessed that.
Yeah, there's a lot
amazing.
of us. And so they came over here, and I was born in America, but my oldest sister was born in Haiti. And so they came here sometime after she was born. And they're American citizens now. So they really, and my mom's actually a nurse practitioner. So, yeah, so they really awesome. They worked from they worked from like zero, and like created like a whole life and made sure that we were like always taken care of. And even if though they struggled, they never showed us that. So like growing up, like, not having a whole lot, I only know that we didn't have a whole lot now, but like back then I didn't know that. I thought we were having a great time, So.
Yeah. So you're like right smack in the middle?
Right. So it's interesting because there's an age gap. So number wise, I am in the middle. So there's an older sister, and then I have twin brothers. My twin brothers are only 11 months older than me. So we kind of grew up like triplets. And then because we were like immigrants, our first language is Creole. So they were a grade ahead of me, and we went to like this Catholic school in Philadelphia. And they didn't have like a program for like English as a second language. So they knew how to speak, but they would show them, like, for example, they would show them like a picture of a banana, my brothers, and they would say the Creole word for it instead of the English word for it. So they got held back because of that. And so since from that point on, we were always in the same grade. So we graduated middle school together, high school together, college together, and even grad school together. And
Wow.
then after me, there's like a 5-year gap. I have a sister, and then after her, like the youngest is 17.
Wow. Okay, so that's like
Yeah.
your parents are just
Yeah.
finishing. Like they're
Yeah.
just it's them. So your mom is a nurse
You work for the
practitioner
post
and your
office.
dad is a okay, very cool. And then what about your siblings? Are they
So one
all
of
in
my
law
brothers is a
or
lawyer
healthcare?
also, and then his twin is an occupational therapist, and then my older sister is a social worker.
Wow.
Yeah.
So very high level individuals. That's truly amazing. And I think like that tends to happen a lot with like immigrants or like, you know, first generation type of thing. You know, when you come from an immigrant family. And I think there's like, that's an incredible process even in itself to be able to go to a new country and not really know like the kind of language in one sense and then also customs and how to fit in and all that kind of stuff. Like
Yeah. Yeah,
that's a
and even
very
being like first generation, like
incredible
I joke, like there was
process.
like for example, like for a long time, like I think I like learned the American word for avocado like maybe 5 years ago. Like I did not know what it was in English for a long time, and I was like, oh, that's what that is. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
there's just like there's certain things or like, you know, I say that all the time, even within the US, which is why I think like immigrant stories are so amazing. And so like I've done contracts across the US and people like to think that culture is different countries. Like it's within the US. Like what is okay on the East Coast is very different on the West Coast. And it's certain mannerisms that you have to get used to and recognize that it's not necessarily wrong.
Yeah.
It's just different than what you're used to. And it takes a little bit of an adjustment. So to come from like a different country, like, and try and learn those, that's amazing. And I'm sure I can see why very inspiring for you. Is there something that your parents like told you or told your family, seven of you, all seven of you, like while you guys were growing up to kind of keep you achieving different things and
Just
following
really
your dreams
like
and your
you know,
ambitions?
just always like just not to ever give up really. Like my dad like gave me just like his there was a time when I was applying to law school, and I want to say like the first like couple letters like were all like rejection letters, and I was freaking out, and my dad's like just always reminding me just never give up. Like he's like all you need is like what he said was, you know, he's like it's okay that you're getting denial letters because the only thing you need is one yes. And so that just that thought and those words, like I carry them with me because even with competing, like I did like what, 4 I think national shows last year, and it's like okay, I didn't get the first time, but it doesn't matter because I just needed one yes to turn pro.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's a sometimes it's hard for us to like come to that realization
Yeah.
and we just focus on the negative instead of like focusing on the possibility. So I love that you said that. Is there anyone else besides your parents that you're really
So
inspired by in life?
immediately, just because I'm currently reading her book, Michelle Obama, I'm in the middle of reading the Audible, The
Yeah.
Light We Carry. And I'm just like really just inspired by her vulnerability and just like kind of like what we were talking about like earlier too, just like, you know, she showed that a lot of things that I feel like she showed that she feels it too. And it's very inspiring to see that someone who's at such her level is feeling these things too. And I just really love the way how real she makes her, you know, relationship with her husband, and she doesn't, you know, try to glamorize it. Like she shows the ugly. And I think that's true of relationships. I think a lot of times we look at people's successful marriages that have been around for like 30 plus years, and you're like, oh my God, you know, it looks so glamorous and so beautiful, but there's a lot of ugly in that sometimes too, and people don't want to hear that, but that's what makes a strong relationship.
Yeah, definitely. I think is that Works of Art by
It's
Bree?
my
Is
best
that
my
your
best
sister or is
friend.
that yeah, you said it's
Yeah, we've been
oh, it's your
friends
best friend.
since
Oh,
we were in the same homeroom sophomore year of high school. Yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah,
Feels like you guys are pretty much
basically,
like
like she calls
family.
my parents, mom and dad, and I do the same thing with her. And we started in how do we? So we were homeroom together, but my parents signed me up for Barbizon, and hers did the same thing. And then we like walked into Barbizon, and we noticed each other from school, so we kind of like clung to each other, and we were doing that
Yeah.
every single week, and that's kind of like how we got super close too.
That's perfect. That's awesome. I think that it seems like, because we haven't known each other for very long, but you've always been super encouraging for me and throughout this last prep. And I just get the sense in so many ways that you're really good with your relationships, or you put a lot of effort into them to try to develop them and stay connected and, give them the time that they deserve. So is there something that you like to do as a daily practice in order to be able to do that? Because you're so busy. I mean, for people who don't know, competitors, when you're in season, you're dedicating even up to like 4 hours. I mean, just the gym time, 4 hours per day. That's kind of the time that I end up getting up to. And then you also have to do all the preparatory work for meals and all that kind of stuff. And then you work full time as a lawyer, which is extremely demanding. So how is it that you make relationships a
Really just
priority?
like the kind of like how the words you used earlier, there's a time and there's a place. And so like with my best friend, for example, like I mean she lives in Tampa now, so it's a lot easier because we can see each other a lot more, and that's really fun. But when she wasn't here, just really just picking up the phone and talking, like we could spend certain Saturdays just on FaceTime all day. I'm watching TV and maybe we're not even talking, but we're just like on FaceTime, just going about our day, doing what we have to do. Sometimes we talk to each other, sometimes we don't, but that helps a lot. And our friendship has
Yeah.
been around for so long and has been so strong. So we kind of get each other like when we're going through things, and we just always make sure to check on each other. And then like with my boyfriend, for example, like you know my night routine includes him. So I'm not watching TV alone. Like I'm making sure that I'm watching TV with him, even if it's football or sports or whatever. I just like sit, or even if he's just playing the game, like I'll just sit there for a little bit until it's time to go to bed, and then I will go to bed. And then on the weekends, that's our time. And
Yeah.
but one other thing that I started to do to just really just foster like just friendship, because I think having a tribe is really important. So I started, inviting like all of my like local friends, and every month we have like a girls' dinner where we all just kind of go out and have a good time and try like the different restaurants in Tampa. It's been very fun during off season, and it's probably gonna be a little bit more challenging in season, because I'm gonna have to make sure that I have like a refeed meal that day, or just have something that's like a little bit more prep friendly, which is fine too, and maybe not have any alcohol. But I definitely want to keep that up even in prep, just to continue fostering those relationships.
I think that's great. I try to do that too, in season or off season. I mean, I travel all around, so I'm more distant, but I tend to make
Me
friends
too.
relatively easily, especially in the gym. Yeah, I kind of guess that. So I will, like, that's kind of how I manage. Even in season, I like to do meal plans, because it's, psychology kind of shows too, like if you know what to expect, then it's easier to kind of manage. Like, this is just what I do. Off season, I have a meal plan, but I'll like exchange things. So I'm doing more like macros. And I know you do macros all year round. So I like to stick to certain restaurants, like sushi places are really good, and look up the menu beforehand and try to plan out
I
what
think
I'm
that's like
going
a
to do
competitor
for
staple.
that
Like we
place.
always have to look at the menu to make sure we can eat there.
Yeah, yeah. And if you're a good friend, then you'll ask the other person, be like,
Yeah,
is the menu
exactly.
okay?
And then we're always probably the annoying people at the table. Like the waiters and waitresses probably hate us because we're like, "Can you cook this, but like with no oil?"
Oh my God, I know. I know. I like made a joke on that on social media, because I was like, I know. I'm always super nice and I tip really well, but
I
like I
know.
know in the moment
They're
they
like,
just
"You don't
hate
want
me. They're
any
just
sauce on
like,
it. You don't want any
where
but
did
I'm like,
you come
"Yeah, just
from?
as plain as you can make it."
Someone asked, what kind of law do you
I
practice?
so I
That's a
am a
great question.
transportation lawyer. And so I represent clients that are in the logistics and transportation and trucking industries. I help them like with pretty much like everything. from like, regulatory compliance with the government, or contract issues with each other, or if they're getting into, different accidents or, labor issues, all of it.
Yeah. So for that kind of thing, can you give us an example of like what that would look like a past like case or something that you had, and what was your process in that?
Let's see, what type of case? I have so many. So with the regulatory issues, one of the things is, like, for example, like when COVID-19 came out, so the transportation agency, it's very regulated, and truck drivers are only able to drive X amount of hours for safety reasons. And so the federal government came out with a bunch of exceptions during COVID, to allow, different, so pretty much just to keep the, like, remember toilet paper issue, to make sure the stores had what they need. Like, you had to kind of transport that stuff, and so you had to make exceptions because there was like a higher need. And so, I would have to work with the company to make sure that we were putting policies in place that, they were able to keep up with the consumer needs, and also make sure that the drivers weren't fatigued and weren't out there like, driving, recklessly, or endangering people. So making sure that we had like a tight niche policy that was in line with what the federal government wanted, but also making sure that we were keeping, everyone else on the roadway safe as well.
Mm-hmm. So you work with like compliance and stuff. Is that anything to do with the union?
So
or
it's regulatory. I mean, it's like there's a whole bunch of regulations on how commercial vehicles should operate, on the roadways, both like interstate and out of state.
And does your job from like day to day, is that checking in with a lot of people, or is that more reading
just
certain
keeping up with
policies?
what's going on? And it is, I mean, it's working like across the state with different people. And then the other part that I do too is I manage a group of lawyers in Texas and New Mexico and Oklahoma. And I manage them with our trucking litigation. So the trucking litigation is when, a truck or a commercial vehicle gets into an accident with someone, or another trucking vehicle, and there's a personal injury action that follows that. And so I don't actively litigate and handle those issues, but I do manage a team that does do that. And so I help with, making sure that, we're, responding to discovery, we're, coming up with a plan that's going to best defend the client and really minimize our risk exposure.
So in a lot of ways, like, you also act as a mentor for other people. I love it. When you were talking Celeste, I was just like, you touched that you're a lawyer, but there's so many different lawyers, and like, everything that you guys do seems really complicated to me. But it's awesome that you do that. So there's like a couple questions that came up besides the ones that we touched on. So this was one I thought was pretty good, because I think that in terms of social media, it's like so all over the place, but do you consider yourself an influencer?
No. I really don't. It's hard. I mean, no, it's really, because I think because influencers get such a bad name, it's hard for me to like, I feel like influencers feel like they're like celebrities, and I don't feel that way.
Yeah. I would say you're an influencer. But maybe my definition of what an influencer is different than what other people are. Like, yes, I do agree that they can have negative connotations. I guess the better term that I would like to use
I think I like that a lot better than influencer.
Yeah, it kind of like sound like, okay, so you're doing a bunch of dances. No, I mean, I think you're a great role model. You're a strong, independent woman. You've definitely overcome a lot of challenges. You're a top-level athlete.
Thank you.
And you're smart as hell. Like, I think that's an amazing, amazing person. And, I really appreciate that. Like, you kind of expand on that and show other people in general that there's so many different things that you can accomplish in life. So I think that's great. And do you take on clients like as a personal trainer or
No, I
fitness
don't.
coach or
I
anything
did
like
for a
that?
little bit back in, I want to say 2019, but it was just really difficult to keep up with being a lawyer as well, and just making sure I gave clients like 100%. So I did phase that out.
Yeah. I think that's really good about like being self-aware, because there's so many, different talents that we have as human beings or we can develop, but we can't always
Yeah.
dedicate 100% into each one of them. So just figuring out what's like truly right for you to do, and also what's right for the other person too. So it's extremely impressive to be practicing attorney, but still have time and dedication for a
Oh,
top
thank
level
you.
competition. I would
I
agree.
think he said he's a general counselor too,
Yeah.
so that's awesome.
Uh,
He's also an attorney
what's
that I
that?
saw in the comments, so that is awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I think especially like for women too, there's so many boxes that we tend to be placed into, or
Hmm.
that we can even place ourselves into. We're to be a certain way, but to expand onto different ones and be able to achieve
Yeah,
different goals
and
is
that's
really
one
great.
thing that I think I used to do like before, like I got into fitness, like so I went from being an athlete to being a law student to being a lawyer, and then I thought that all I could be was a lawyer, and that I could not have any other identity. So at the time that I found fitness, it was at a time when I was kind of shedding myself of that and realizing that I just needed to be myself. And I'm a lawyer, that's my job, but that's not who I am. Like I'm a person, and I need to stick to that. So I would say around the time that I found fitness was the time that I learned that lesson. And it's just been so refreshing to be able to move and just be myself and not stuck to any one title.
I love that. What is it that you get from competing? Because like competing, if you look
Mm-hmm.
at terms like objectively, you are basically you're putting yourself on a stage where you can see every single type of flaw that could be there. It's grueling day to day, sometimes like 4 hours a day. Um, Even if you were like the top level competitor, if you won every single show, it's not from winning the shows, you still wouldn't have enough to like
Right.
make a salary type of thing. So it's not necessarily like a financial incentive. So, and it's like, just draining in a lot of different ways. So what is it that you get from competing that's so rewarding that
Honestly,
keeps you
just like
coming back for more?
it's legitimately like my happy place. It's just like it's a happiness that I get from it. I don't compete for money. I'm not looking to like ever make like not even a dollar from competing, honestly. I think it's cool that like, top three pros at shows get to win money, but that's not my driving factor at all. I think with competing, it's just, well, for one, like I truly just enjoy being on stage. I mean, I did pageants and modeling as a child, and those are always fun for me. So it's just another avenue to continue to do that. I feel like I can't begin to describe like the happiness I feel like when my heel hits that stage, and how happy it is just to see like all the lights and to just be able to perform and be my full self. And then the other part of competing that really is
Mm-hmm.
rewarding is like, you're working really hard in the gym and you're being super consistent in the kitchen. And just to see that hard work and to see the improvements and the way your body changes, that is rewarding. It's like just being
Yeah.
instantly able to see your hard work right in front of you. Because sometimes you can't really see it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like it takes
Yeah.
time to be able to dedicate into something and then be able to support afterwards for sure. And it's sometimes like a really long time. Like it's, years of training to get the muscle growth and maturity, and then months and months to be able to shut it down so that
Yeah,
way you can see like the
exactly.
lines and the definition. When I first started competing, I got like a comment, and it's really stuck with me. And I was really actually appreciative that someone had said this, because I think it's a misconception where the person was like, it's such a vain sport, and you're just like 100% into your body and da 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 da. And I'm like, yes, that is rewarding. Like it's great to be able to put on a bikini and be totally shredded and all that kind of stuff. For me, like I don't keep a
Hmm.
super shredded body throughout the year. And I think the best thing that I get out of competing is the way that I develop mentally. So, being able to overcome like your challenges and be able to coach yourself through that, and being able to say like, I don't want to do this right now. I'm so tired. I have a million things to do, and I, have to still prep for the next day and stuff like that, but I made this commitment to myself and I'm going to achieve it. Then overcoming any kind of perceived limitations is like, just builds your self confidence, and I don't know,
Yeah.
your, like what you said, like your
Yeah.
mental strength on
I
a
mean, it
whole
really
different.
does just keep pushing it. And I can 100% see why people would think that it is a vain sport. And maybe for some people it is, but I think it's so much more than that, because it really just focuses you just to be like, just to have mental toughness. I know like one of my colleagues mentioned to me, and they were like, I think it's, so cool that you compete. And I could really see how, now I understand like why you're so driven at work and so ambitious, because if you're able to do that, it just makes a whole lot of sense. So I do appreciate when people can see more to it than just a vanity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do agree with that. Like you can, if you know how to harness like your ability to achieve a goal in one
Exactly.
area, then you're able to translate it into a different area. For sure. Are there certain goals that you're looking to? We talked about you're doing a pro debut, which is so phenomenal. Are there other goals that you have in the next, year or 10 years, or what is it that you're
Um, and,
looking to
and,
achieve
and just competing in all areas. So, I mean, for
in all areas?
competing, like I would love to, get first call outs at a pro show. I would love to compete internationally just because I really love traveling. And work wise, like I am on a partner track at work, and I would love to be named partner. So.
That's awesome. You had mentioned with like Celeste
Oh yes,
that you
that is
also like want
definitely
to
a
be.
goal. Yeah, so being a mother, yeah,
I
I think
love
that's I mean that's a goal in like the next, I would say like two years or so too.
that.
Yeah, no pressure,
No
no
pressure to
pressure.
the boyfriend, but
No pressure, but being a mom has always been a goal of mine, and it still is. So
Mhm. That's awesome. What is it that you like? What's so fascinating about being a
I
mom, or what is it
I
that
think
like
it's just
is
the
so
idea
intriguing to
that
you?
like a person can create life. I think that is just the coolest thing, and that's like the best thing about women, honestly, is that we can harvest and create life, and and then you can watch that
Absolutely.
little person just become like a bigger person and just like be an image of yourself, and I think that's just really cool.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is kind of like probably going to gross some people out, but when I did like my rotations and stuff, I do sports med and orthopedics, which is like I feel like such a stereotype. Of course, she's into fitness and she does sports med and orthopedics. But I did like rotations for like, of course, labor and delivery. And that was like one of the most amazing things I ever saw was like a child being
Yeah.
birthed. Like it sounds really gross, but I'm it was like the
I've
most
actually seen
amazing
it
thing.
myself,
Like
and
I was just wow.
I didn't think it was that amazing to actually watch, but the after effect of I had to hold my sister's leg when she was giving birth to my godson. I was just like, oh my god,
Yeah.
what's happening? But it's also why I didn't go into
I
medicine
don't know
also.
why.
So.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
some people cannot handle that at all. That's true, for sure. I totally get that and like respect knowing yourself and being aware like I cannot handle this or whatever. And I will say like even for myself, when I get my blood drawn and stuff like that, I
Yeah.
still get like super
Oh
anxious,
yeah,
but I can do it
I
to
close my eyes
anyone
when
else and it's
when they're sticking me with the needle, because I'm like, I don't want to look at it.
yeah, yeah. I'm even the same way. I'm always like, okay, this is the perfect time to meditate. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. It's uh, my sister is a partner at
Yeah,
an
it's
AM
a
Law
big, it's a
100 firm.
large law firm. Mine is, I think my firm is AmLaw 100 or 200. I can't remember, but that's pretty cool. It's really hard it is really hard. I mean, working at a big law firm and like dealing with billable hours is very difficult. So.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I did like what you said with Celeste is being able to like
Yeah.
work through the billable hours. Like our time is very valuable, and I don't think that's in a lot of different areas. I don't always think that that's really recognized. And so I think that I'm going to actually try to implement that approach, like, because I think it's a mindset of like, how am I going to spend these 6 minutes? And not that I fill my time in that way, but I think it's a very interesting kind of outlook on how to manage your time and how to value your time. So like, if you can just explain that for everyone else who doesn't know what I'm talking about.
Billable hours.
Then that would be
So
great.
the way billable hours work is like you measure, you know, so a lawyer in a firm is really, it's the service that we're offering the client. It's us and our time. And so the way that we bill the client is by 6-minute increments. And so you have to really think about everything that you're doing. So if you're working on something for like, you know, for 1 minute, then you have to put a 0.1 because that's within the 6-minute block. And if it takes you like 45 minutes, for example, I believe that's like a 0.8 because that's within that 47-minute block. And so 0.1 is 6 minutes, 0.2 is, I believe, 12 minutes, 0.3 is like, you know, over 12 minutes, and it goes on like that until you get to the hour. And then you just have to keep building that. It's really, really, really difficult to get sometimes. And if there's a learning curve, but once you get it, you get it. And the thing I like about billable hours too is it's kind of like it's another benchmark to look at. I'm really big on like just benchmarks and being able to like look at how I'm doing. And so by inputting my time in, like I'm able to like kind of gauge my productivity, and it helps me like focus on a goal for that day also.
Yeah, that's kind of what I got from it with their previous conversation. I was like, wow, that's a really interesting approach to do it. And just like day to day, kind of reflecting, like, how was it that I spent my time? How productive was it? You know, type of thing. Because there's definitely like, I mean, there's days where I'm super productive and I get a million things done. And then there's other days where I'm not.
Exactly.
And then at the end of the day, I'm like,
and then the other thing about like the billable time too, like, so because it's something that's, it's called a billable time. It's also a bill and it's going to be sent to the client. So you have to also explain what you're doing. So there's no room to BS it. Or to just like, you know, not really work and fake work. You can't really fake it. You have to be able to explain it. And then someone's going to look at it, and you know, and you have to be ethical. I mean, we all took an obligation, an oath to be an ethical attorney, and so all of those go into play with it. And so I think that's part of what makes being a lawyer such an intense job, because for you to truly work a 7 or 8 hour day on paper, because it might take you longer just to get that, you have to be really intentional. And you have to actually do the work, and there's really no time to just kind of sit around and just, I don't feel like doing anything today. I'm just going to kind of half-ass it.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it doesn't feel like you're that type of person in general. If you were in a different field, like, I don't think you would just be like, my time in is my time in, my time out is my time out. Like, you're always like, I want to like be able to be proud of like what I do or the work I do or what I accomplish.
It's funny. So H.G. Warrior poet says that, and we know we're reviewing your invoices, so he's right. So it would be him that would get the bill and look at it, and it's like, this sounds like BS, and he would, you know, say,
oh my God.
And as his role as a general counsel, he's the client, so he does get our bills, and he'll look at it and say, okay, this sounds like BS. I'm not paying for that.
Oh
so that's how it works. So you know, it's interesting. So when your client is a corporation, you know, you work with other lawyers who are in the corporation, and their roles are general counsel or associate general counsel, or corporate counsel or something like that, and they kind of get your bills and you report to them in a way.
Yeah. Is there something that inspires you to be a lawyer?
Not like, so just really just watching like a bunch of like legal shows. I grew up watching The Practice and Law and Order and things like that. And then like, and I used to argue with my parents a lot, and my dad would say, you know, you probably should be a lawyer. And I didn't know any lawyers. I just knew the TV lawyers. So initially, like, I thought I wanted to be a criminal lawyer. And so I actually like did an internship at a public defender's office, and I could not stomach the crimes at all.
You said your sister is a social worker. So I thought about being a social worker at one point, and then I like really learned what they have to deal with day to day, and I was like, I cannot do this.
Like dealing with people's real lives, and not fun.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Okay. Well, I just thought that was interesting because it's like I've had a couple friends who are lawyers, and at least for them, there was like something that they saw or they kind of experienced that they were they can make their case and they can make good arguments. They've always been able to do that, but they wanted to like be able to you know, help other people in a certain way to like be their voice in a lot of ways. Not for you.
No, I mean it's how it kind of started for me. It just just really because I would
Oh, okay.
like the things that I would argue with my parents about would would be so I have the two brothers, and so they would and it's a culture thing too, and so you know they would only like want the girls to do the housework and that's it, and so we would argue about equality.
Oh, I love
And those are the
that.
things we argued about. And I was like maybe like 7, 8, just arguing with my parents about equality.
That's amazing.
And I don't know where I got it from, honestly. I had no idea where it came from. Like it's not something that I saw on TV. I just didn't think it was right.
Yeah. Right. Right. That is so amazing. So that's kind of what I was thinking is because like usually, at least with the lawyers that I've met, there's like something specific that totally makes sense. 100%. I love that. That's so great. So the only other question that I have is like if someone is like just trying to get into fitness and they're just trying to make a change, is there one thing that
I
you would
think
recommend
just
that they
so I
do?
think the easiest thing to do is just really just to start small. So like for example, like if your goal is to, you know, lose weight, for example, like just I would start small by like let's say like pulling out the sugar, you know, and not really like falling into a diet, just pulling out the sugar or pulling out like the things like condiments and things that are like unnecessary calories that you don't really need for your food, just pulling those at first. And then you know, the way that I got into a habit because I think just committing to 20 days? I think 20 days. Committing to doing something for 20 days and you know doing it like on the first of a day because it represents like a fresh start and just like promising yourself that you're going to do something. You're going to go to the gym like 3 times a week for 20 days until it becomes a habit. And once you have that habit, you know, I think it's very difficult to break it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. Starting small is super
Yeah,
important, like making lifelong commitment to something. It's a short-term commitment. And that's what I personally, I know everyone is different. That's what I don't like about, you know, these
yeah.
cleanse or all that kind of stuff, like that you only do for a certain period of time because they may be effective, but once you
Exactly.
go back to your old
It's not
habit,
sustainable.
then
So just like and you'd be surprised by how you could lower your calories by cutting things like just soda, you know, juice. Um and just like
yeah,
sticking like just simple foods without even tracking them. Start there before you get into like a place where you want to track your meals and things like that.
right. I agree. And then that kind of ties in, I think, to what we
Yeah.
said is like setting yourself up for success. So if it's like and this is different for each person, like if you're going to make the gym a priority, how can you
Hmm.
make it as easy as possible so you don't even have to think about it? Like for me, it's like I know I go to work. I do a little bit of like mobility movements in the morning. So I wouldn't really say that's like gym, but it's just like to help me with my
Yeah.
posture and like throughout the day and just kind of me to feel good. But for me at this point, the way my schedule is, like I know that I need to bring my stuff with me to work and I cannot go back home until I go to the gym. Like I don't make it a thought process of like I'm going to go home and relax for a little bit, then maybe go to the gym. Like no,
Yeah.
I know if I do that, it's not happening
And that,
anytime.
but that's exactly true. And I think that's where people mess up. Like you have to put it in a position where there's no other option. So, you know, forcing yourself to drive by the gym after work or just doing a thing so you have no
Yeah.
excuse. I think those are the best because like it's really hard to try to start out and like let's say pick like the lunchtime for your workouts because so many things can happen and interrupt you and if it's not a priority yet it's really difficult. So I think like the early starts or the late starts are the best because you can create a routine that really works and is easy for you to stick to.
Yes, I love that. Well, that's all I had. I absolutely love this conversation. I thought it was so good.
No, I
Do
think
you have
we
anything that you
covered a
wanted to
lot.
add?
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed doing this.
Yeah, yeah, no, this was so fun. Thank you for coming on with me. And you guys definitely should follow Sophia if you don't already. She's absolutely incredible, amazing, amazing woman, so inspirational, and follow your journey.